We're delighted to be here at the Mary Peters track on this sunny afternoon with Irish Hockey International Katie Mullan, who is going to share with us the importance of sport to her, but also the importance of the 2020 campaign and its final chapter, the future of women in sport. Katie, how important is sport to you?
Sport has just shaped me. It's shaped my future. It shaped my entire childhood. I grew up playing every sport under the sun, and then eventually sort of led me to a path of international hockey, and I've had the opportunity to meet the best people and form the best friendships, but also travel the world and have the opportunity to lead Ireland out in a World Cup final. So yes, sport has never left me short of anything. It's been so crucial, and yeah, I love it.
When did you first get interested in sport?
My first sort of interest was kind of growing up when I was 7 or 8. I have 2 older brothers and they loved playing football in the backyard, and they stuck me between the posts and made me save every shot that sort of came at me. So that was when it first developed, and I think that's when the hunger for me developed in proving them that, you know, as a girl I could be as good as they were, and I could maybe play outfield someday and they'd have to go into the nets. So yeah, that's sort of around that age was when my hunger for sport kind of grew.
Talk me through how you have got to where you are today.
Well, I suppose it started off with a PE teacher in school that really believed in my ability on the hockey pitch, and she pushed me to go for Ulster trials and represent Ulster regionally, and then that's whenever I got my opportunity to play for Ireland underage. I then had the brilliant opportunity to go and play in the Youth Olympic Games when I was 15, and then from there I broke into the senior women's team at the age of 18, and I've just never looked back since. I don't really know life without international hockey anymore, and I continue to love it every time I do it, and it's just a huge part of my life.
Who did you look up to for inspiration in the sporting world when you were younger?
I suppose my greatest inspiration was my PE teacher, and she was an Irish international hockey player herself. She played 150 times for Ireland, and she was still playing for Ireland whenever she was teaching me and coaching me how to play hockey. And I suppose the biggest thing I always tell people is how lucky am I that my greatest role model was someone that I was getting coached by, that I was a teammate of at club level, and that I'm now a great friend of. So I count myself very lucky.
Are there enough female sporting role models in the world today?
I wouldn't say there's enough just yet, but I definitely think we're getting there. We've made huge strides, and that's something that the 20 by 20 campaign has driven, and the media have really got behind. There's a lot of successful female sportswomen in Ireland, and we're all now learning about them, but they've always been there. So it's brilliant to see that transition being made, but we still need to get to a place where everyone's put on the pedestal that they need to be in order to be recognised for their achievements.
How important is the 20 by 20 campaign?
20 by 20 campaign has just transformed sport. It's actually changed my life, because now we're at a place where we're getting the funding we need, we're getting the access to the facilities that we need. We've got crowds coming to all our games, we're getting the media coverage for young girls to be able to watch us in every game that we play. So it's completely transformed my sport and a lot of sport across Ireland. But I suppose it can't just be now that we rest on our laurels, and it has to be something that continues to be driven. The campaign had huge goals at the beginning, and they smashed those goals way before their target date, and I suppose you have to admire that they've just continued to build on them and strive for more and more and more. So we have to get to a place now where we don't talk about women in sport, because we have equality across the board.
Much of the ethos of the 20 by 20 campaign is built around the growing media coverage and indeed the attendances at female sporting events. How have you found the interest in women's hockey during your career?
The interest in the women's hockey team has just multiplied, like, month by month. I think, you know, going to a World Cup and winning a silver medal gave us a pretty good head start. But to see that support has continued, you know, we're 2 years on now and we still have the following that we had back then, and it's still growing. So You know, I always tell people, like, when I grew up, you would go and play in front of a couple of parents and a few dogs on the sideline, whereas now we get, you know, packed out stadiums where you can get in ticket only, and some people don't even make it in. So for me, I've seen it go from minimal to max capacity, which has been amazing, and we have to continue to produce the results in order to make sure that keeps happening.
Katie, what can we now do to ensure that the momentum built up with the 20 by 20 campaign over the last 2 years continues going forward?
I think the biggest thing is that the media continue to do what they're doing in terms of promoting the role models in sport. I think as long as we have, you know, clear pathways for young girls growing up to aspire to reach the top level in sport and compete on the world stage, not just on the national stage, then I think we'll do a pretty good job at getting to a place where there is equality across the board. But it definitely does come down to having those role models and being given the recognition that they deserve in order to inspire the next generation.
What is your message to the next generation of sporting female rising stars?
I suppose the biggest thing I always say is that there's a sport out there for everyone, and I'm not saying it has to be hockey or you know, the first sport you try is not necessarily the one that you'll stick with, but I think some people sometimes try one sport and decide that they're not a sporty person, and that's for me where they're wrong. They just haven't found the right one. So keep trying lots of different sports and you will find one that you're good at and that you'll enjoy more. So that's my key message.
Katie, thank you so much for your time today, and indeed all of your time since the launch of the 2020 campaign, getting right behind it, because we at KPMG are absolutely delighted to have you involved, and indeed in terms of taking forward the next chapter in terms of what is next for women in sport.
Thank you, Ashleen.